What is going on, guys? This is the Club of the Man 1993 coming at you again for the second review of my WrestleMania review series. As we go back in time to April 7th, 1986, and we review WrestleMania 2. I watched this 3-hour show last night, and I'm going to review it tonight and upload this video probably tomorrow morning, hopefully. So, overall, WrestleMania 2. Did I like it better than WrestleMania 1 or did I like WrestleMania 1 better than WrestleMania 2? It's tough to say because, WrestleMania 1 was more of like a gamble to celebrate, the occasion of wrestling and promote that, hey, wrestling is a big event. WrestleMania 2 tried to capitalize on it, and on a production standpoint, I'd say it did have some flaws, but I think wrestling wise and entertainment wise, I would probably remember this show a little bit more than WrestleMania 1. So, in a way, there's a mixed bag of results here. Again, it's like, there's some stuff I liked, some stuff I didn't like, but I'd say overall, wrestling quality of the show, I thought we had some good matches. I know we went from 9 to 12 matches, and it was a longer show, but I think this show overall, in my opinion, I enjoyed it a little bit more than WrestleMania 1. Getting into it, it took place. Now, this is just a weird show because it actually took place on a Monday. As I said, April 7th, 1986, it was on a Monday. I don't know why it took place on a Monday, but the other weird thing about this, which was kind of did at times take me out of the show a little bit, it went, all over the place. They held it at 3 different arenas. 3 different arenas in one show. 3-hour show, 1 hour for each. And I don't know, it just something seemed a little bit off to me. I don't know why. It just didn't quite, from a production standpoint, didn't quite flow well. But I think the matches we saw some pretty good stuff here. But the 3 places they took place at was the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, Illinois, and the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena in LA. So we got started with the New York portion for the first hour. We kicked off with kind of a flat match. Nothing really special about it. It was the magnificent Don Morocco with Mr. Fuji versus Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. We now have a babyface Paul Orndorff after he was the heel last year at WrestleMania 1. Well, the year before. I shouldn't say last year, but the year before. We did start getting some more gimmicks to some of these characters in the show, as last year we didn't really have many gimmicks. But this match was just it kind of reminded me a little bit of the David Sammartino and Brutus Beefcakes match that we got the year before, except the fact that the man Mr. Fuji didn't get involved in the match. Well, I mean there was only just one person in someone's corner, but this match ended in a double countout as like Paul Orndorff I think did go also attempt a chair shot, but they broke them up right away, and the match was bad. Wasn't really a good opener. Nothing really got me like hooked in, like thinking, okay, here we go. We're starting off great, like the match between Tito Santana and the Executioner did at WrestleMania 1. So again, not really a good way to start off the show. In fact, for 2 of the 3 arenas, the first matches were all seemed bad, except for one, the last one in LA. That one was pretty good. We'll get to that one later. But we did have another good match. This was probably one of my favorite matches on this show. It was the WWF Intercontinental Championship match between George the Animal Steel and the Macho Man Randy Savage with Elizabeth in his corner. Rest in peace, both of them. Macho Man passed away several years ago, and George the Animal Steel passed away recently as well. The winner retaining his title was the Macho Man Randy Savage, and I thought this was a fun match to watch, especially with George the Animal Steel as well. He was Beanie a pure animal in this match. He was, biting at the turnbuckles, taking all the fluff out of there as well. I think he went as far as he actually bit Randy Savage as well in the arm. So I mean, that was pretty entertaining to see. And with the fact of him being smitten by Miss Elizabeth as well, which we all know she was a huge role in Savage's character as well. And Savage even had a good match as well for being the heel, and I enjoyed it. The first match I got to watch Randy Savage as well, so it was an awesome, entertaining match. And this next match as well was pretty solid as well. I know a lot of people in the ratings didn't really think too much of this match, but like a very underrated wrestler who just recently got into the Hall of Fame a couple years ago, I believe it was. Jake the Snake Roberts was taking on George Wells. Don't really know who George Wells was, but he had a strong showing in this match as well. And Jake the Snake Roberts looked good as well. And he wins his match with a DDT. Again, a lot of people more so know him because of Damien as Snake. But again, he's a great performer, and he's also someone who used the DDT very well. I know a lot of people these days don't seem to use DDT as a strong finisher, and the move got watered down. But we've seen Bobby Roode, we've seen Alexa Bliss use it also. So the prestige of the DDT is coming back, and not just more just like a stun move, like how Randy Orton uses it when he sets up for his finisher, the RKO. But I thought he had a good showing. And after the match, now this was kind of sickening looking, but it was cool. He brings out Damien, his Snake, and he wraps him around George Wells, and he's like, if he was being choked by this thing, he starts foaming out of the mouth. I know some people be like, "Ugh, that's kind of disgusting. Looks weird." Personally, I thought it looked like the cool effect as well. It was pretty much, again, the first match I got to see Jake the Snake Roberts wrestle in. I thought it was a cool moment to really put him on the map for his future Hall of Fame career. So this was a good match. Then we get into the last match of the New York portion. I know I've heard a lot of bad reviews on this match, and honestly, it was pretty bad. It was a 10-round boxing match. A boxing match on a wrestling show. As I've heard so many times and even seen it too, and I can agree, this is a wrestling show. If you try to bring something else like, boxing or arm wrestling, it's very, very tough to make it on a show like that time the WWF, but for a wrestling company at a time also where and I'll be honest too, watching these first few WrestleManias, they've been booked, the way the matches have played out, it has shown me that back then it was a lot more convincing. It was convincing to think, hey, this stuff actually does look real, because they weren't as focused on character gimmicks, but rather than just wrestling itself. Because this show was, again, it had some weird production glitches, but it had some good wrestling in it as well. But this was obvious right here. This was definitely going to hurt the product. Was this boxing match? I believe they were trying to bring in the real life heat between which the feud was between Mr. T and Roddy Piper. I know that Cowboy Bob Orton got involved in this match, which is partially why he was in the corner for Mr. T for Roddy Piper and gosh, who they faced the year before? I can't remember who else was in their corner, but anyways, but this is like a match kind of like falling off of their feud, and in real life, supposedly Mr. T and Roddy Piper did not like each other. So they tried to bring this into real life, heat into an actual feud on TV, and a boxing match that's supposed to be on a show where they're supposed to be doing entertainment, the fake punches and such, weren't selling well pretty much, and it made them both look pretty bad. I know that these guys probably did try to make this work, and it just didn't. And then eventually, Roddy Piper gets disqualified in the 4th round after he did a spine buster or something on the Mr. T to lose the match. So again, as he was saying, why would you have these fluke finishes count out or DQ on a big show like WrestleMania? It's supposed to be some grand finale pretty much, celebrating year of wrestling, and it's supposed to be solidifying legacies and moments in history and such. And this match just did not. This didn't really fit WrestleMania caliber show. I know that they tried to make it work, but it did not. So that's why I didn't really like that match. Then we move on to the Chicago portion for the second hour. First, we had the WWF Women's Championship, the fabulous Moolah taking on Velvet McIntyre, and this was just like last year, we got a women's championship match that just didn't really nothing really to remember pretty much. Moolah wins in 59 seconds. Last year we saw um, Wendy Reichter and who else? I already see. I just watched the show the other night. I already forgot who the other women's wrestler was that was in the match. But I remember watching that match and thinking it looks like a bunch of grown ladies, like who aren't really athletic fighting. And this match just just blew by and was nothing really spectacular as well. So that's why I didn't nothing really to write home about in this match. And we then had like an average like okay flag match because the crowds were into it. I mean, like either way, the crowd was these first two WrestleManias was definitely really into the show. Like, they gave their reaction of how they felt. The crowd was never really dead at any point. But this match was all right, and the crowd was into because it was a flag match: USA versus the Soviet Union. USA being represented by Corporal Kirchner, and versus Nikolai Volkov, who was the tag team with the Iron Sheik the year before. And again, it's a flag match. Nothing really too special. I mean, the crowds were into it because they wanted USA to win, and USA won. So it was match, nothing really to remember, but the crowd liked it, so they got a reaction out of it. So I guess a lot of superstars like that. They did their job. We then had this average 20-man battle royale, and there's sometimes a lot of times where they have like special guests or celebrities. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This was kind of average. I mean, I don't know. It was seeming like a little bit like a cluster match or whatnot because no one really moved around too much in the ring. It seemed everybody was like in the same spot, and then boom, people were flying out. I know one moment that the Chicago crowd really liked was when the Chicago Bears player William Perry was taken out by Big John Studd, and then Perry got his revenge, pulling Big John Studd out as well. I know the crowd did a big pop for Perry because that's one of their hometown players. So like that was a cool moment I think for Chicago crowd and a moment for Perry as well. I know Bruno Sammartino was in there. There was a couple, and I remember they mentioned one or two Pittsburgh Steelers names in there. I can't remember who exactly was in it though. But again, it was a match. It wasn't really too special. The guy who wins Battle Royals won the match, Andre the Giant. So again, it was average, nothing really special, but it's like whatever. It wasn't the worst I saw from this pay-per-view. And then the main event for the Chicago portion was the WWF Tag Team Championship match. It was the Dream Team, the champions, Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine taking on the British Bulldogs, Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith. I've been very impressed so far with both WrestleManias I've watched so far with the tag matches. They've been very solid action, really good chemistry with these teams working together. And this match was won after British Bulldogs had Greg Valentine running ahead, I think, with Dynamite Kid, and he gets busted open, knocked out, win. Just a different finisher, not just the usual typical stuff, just the usual pinfall or submissions. Just a different way to win matches. It's just not always gonna be the same thing to finish off, and even though sometimes it'll mean something there. But this was different as well, and I thought it was a fun match. That's why I've enjoyed these tag matches. I think either this match or the match with George Animal Steel and Macho Man Randy Savage are probably my two favorite matches on this show. My top two, I'd say. But this is an awesome match. Go ahead to close out the Chicago portion. Then we go out to LA. We had a great opener finally. It was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat taking on Hercules Hernandez, and I thought this was another good match. I got to see Ricky the Dragon Steamboat for the second year in a row in action, and Hercules Hernandez, who was obviously a little bit of a bigger guy than him, took him to the limit, and he but Ricky was able to break out of it and get the win in a solid match, and a very entertaining match. I want to be able to invest more in some of these legends. I know Ricky the Steamboat Dragon is someone who I've been interested in seeing. So I thought we had a good match by these two to open up the Los Angeles portion. But then we get into our last bad match. It was this really weird match. These two really awkward gimmicks. Adorable Adrian Adonis with Jimmy Hart, or no, I'm sorry, just Adrian Adonis taking on Uncle Elmer. Two really weird names. You had like a farmer taking on like a big cootie bug or something. It was just a really weird match. Adonis was like, flying all over the place. You couldn't even know where he's going to. He eventually wins. There was nothing really to this match. It was just two weird gimmicks that just felt so weird, and wasn't into it. I was playing Mario Kart again on my Game Boy Advance, so I'm like, this match is done. We had another fun tag match. It was the Funk Brothers, Terry and Haas, with Jimmy Hart taking on Tito Santana and Junkyard Dog. I think that's why I put Jimmy Hart here twice. For him, I know it's my bad. He wasn't in the match before, but this match he was in there. Another fun match. Again, I liked seeing Junkyard Dog the previous year taking on Greg Valentine, and then again Tito Santana had a great opening match at WrestleMania, a good opening match at WrestleMania 1 against the Executioners. So it's cool to see these guys go at it again. But then the Funk Brothers did pull off a classic heel move. And it was again, I don't mind, heels, coming up with the victory at WrestleMania, even though sometimes there's people I'd rather have them win, as long as it actually means something. And this had a good finish as well. Tito was arguing over, something that the Funk Brothers did with the referee, and then Jimmy Hart snuck his megaphone in, and one of the Funk Brothers struck Junkyard Dog in the head with it, knocking him out, tossing out to the side. Santana tried to go confront them for doing so, but during that's when they got the pinfall for the victory, and the Funk Brothers win this match. Fun match, not as good as the tag title match, but it was still a fun match to have. And then we get into our main event, not just for the LA portion, but for the whole show. We got the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan, taking on King Kong Bundy, with Bobby the Brain Heenan in his corner in a steel cage match. And this is for the World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Championship. And they're showing build up. King Kong Bundy had the 9-second squash match at WrestleMania 1. He then would target Hulk Hogan to go get his championship. And then he went as far as, injuring Hogan's ribs. And throughout the night, we had some segments of Hogan backstage working out saying, Hogan can't do this, you're hurt. He says, well, let me tell you something, brother. I'm going to do this no matter what you say. So Hogan fought through, people tell him he can't do it. He went out there. And I thought they had a pretty good match. I'd say probably my third favorite match of the entire show, probably. It was a steel cage match. I mean, I'm usually a fan of, the escape roll. I think that's the only way to win this match was the escape roll. But I felt the way it was, it made sense. Hogan had to go through some barriers to get around King Kong Bundy, who really used his size advantage to Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan was a big guy, but King Kong Bundy was even bigger. And then he eventually would escape the cage to win. There was some blood in there. I believe he actually climbed out as King Kong Bundy was trying to crawl out the door, but Hogan climbed around the fence and down, and then he finally got his revenge on Bobby the Brain Heenan, put him in the steel cage, locked him in there, and then he just started, beating the crap out of him. That's how we went off the show, ending WrestleMania 2, which is about 3 hours on the die. It was again, I enjoyed it a little bit more than WrestleMania 1 because we had some better wrestling matches. We had some good matches at WrestleMania 1, but it was average. I know the production was a little here and there, back and forth, but overall, I still enjoyed watching WrestleMania 2. Again, the matches I'll remember is the tag title match with the Dream Team and the British Bulldogs, Macho Man Randy Savage, and George Animal Steel, George Wells, and Jake the Snake Roberts, and even Hulk Hogan and King Kong Bundy with Bobby the Brain Heenan as well. So overall, I'd say I'll give WrestleMania 2 is a slight better grade than WrestleMania 1. I'll give it a solid C. That's my grade for WrestleMania 2. What are your thoughts on WrestleMania 2 if you haven't watched it? If you've watched it so far. If you haven't, I recommend checking it out. Please make sure to click that like, subscribe for more content to come to this channel. Please also make sure to follow me on Twitter at TheManAirboy93. I'm not sure where I'll get to WrestleMania 3, but that is the next WrestleMania I will review. So whenever I get to that, I will review it. That is it, guys. Until then, have a great night.